Voilà. Je suis là, une cérémonie officielle, je pense comme il faut. Je peux faire imbécile, et aujourd'hui c'est la Marseillaise des partisans, je m'appelle Monsieur le Président de la République ou Monsieur. D'accord? Voilà, c'est bien. Et tu fais les choses dans le bon ordre, si le jour où tu veux faire la révolution, tu apprends d'abord à avoir un diplôme et à te gérer toi-même. D'accord? Et à ce moment-là, tu vas donner le son.
Albert Dufour was full of the milk of human kindness. Constant crusader, he would gallop through Radioland to the rescue, looking for supposedly desperate causes, barely taking the time to change horses between two campaigns, always panting for breath as he came on the scene just in time to deliver the downtrodden victim, expose a scandal, and lash out at injustice. A Zorro of the airwaves, and the public adored it. So much so, in fact, that some, the most obtuse, saw each nightly editorial as a serial instalment. Dufour on Skid Row, Dufour and the Arabs, Dufour versus the racists, Dufour and the police, Dufour against brutality, Dufour for prison reform, Dufour and capital punishment, etc., etc. But no one, not even Dufour himself, could see that our Zorro was flogging dead horses, flying off to the rescue of issues long since won. Something else, strange but true. He was looked on as the model of the free, objective thinker. He would have been shocked and surprised to learn that he was, in fact, a captive of fashion, bound by all the new taboos, conditioned by 30 years of intellectual terrorism, and that, if the owner and general manager of the station that employed him entrusted 10 million good Frenchmen to his care each night, it certainly wasn't to use his talents to tell them the opposite of what they supposed they believed in. As for the plush publicity that surrounded Dufour and flanked his little gems of moral indignation, it brought truly awesome results. Though no one was awed in the slightest anymore, so long had the public souls steeped in this system of self-contradiction, like a turd in a toilet bowl, rotting away. All the press, or almost, played this curious poker, and won every hand. And Dio's paper led the pack, with its glossy, full-colour spreads. Men, get into the swing. We're swayed this season. Your banker is your friend. Invest with confidence. For a whole new art of living, Trianon Towers, 5 rooms, patio, barbecue, 480,000 francs. Vacation club, private beach, pool, 10,000 francs a share. Enough to make you suspect the capitalists of abysmal stupidity, or make you wonder if their show of goodwill was a payoff in advance to some mafia of the future. It all paid for the inserts in those catalogues called newspapers, whose editors, decked out in suede and barbecue fed, with their Riviera tans, cried out for human liberation through an end to profits, preached rejection of money, that enslaver and corrupter of souls, called for doing away with all social constraints and for abject equality, all lines and bars down. It hit the spot, it sold, whereas nothing else did. Why stand on ceremony? Go along with the times and sell out your conscience. In this world of ours, clearly, opinion mongers, the likes of Dufour, Dio, Aurel, Vilsberg and co., have to live on their ideas, since that's all they have. But if they seem to be sawing the limbs where they're sitting, egged on for some senseless reason by the man who owns the tree, please don't worry. They've already got their eyes on another nearby branch, one they'll grab at the very last moment. Because surely you don't think the new world can come into being without them after all. Their kind doesn't work for nothing. In the stew they're churning up before our eyes, you can bet they'll keep afloat, decked out in leather, with their Riviera tans. And so, as he spoke of the Armada, sitting astride his branch, already soared more than halfway through, Dufour was his most convincing self, finding just the right words to hit home, to sink into the muck of each heart with a soft little plop. With appropriate variations, he played out the same master hands that had made him famous. The case of the Greek deportees, and the more recent one of the Algerian labourer accused of the rape and the murder of a little girl, and victim, perhaps, of a miscarriage of justice. With relish and talent, Dufour re-enlisted his Greeks and pressed the miscarriage of justice back into active service, and he made no bones about it. You, my faithful supporters and listeners, know that I never mince words. There's no compromise with despair. There's no compromise with evil. So I'm sure you won't mind if my talk gets rough. Don't forget, if I did my bit, with your help, to change the fate of the Greek deportees, and if I saved us all from putting an innocent man to death, the most odious crime a society can commit, it's only because I talked rough when I had to. Well, friends, the time has come now for me to bring into your homes, with the sound of my voice, 1 million more deported, exiled souls. Exiled this time of their own free will, but victims no less of the worst, most heinous miscarriage of justice since the world began. So I'm going to talk straight from the shoulder again, and let the chips fall where they may. If you want to eat supper in peace, good friends, I suggest you turn off your radios for the next 5 minutes. Hear that, Marcel? Dufour is onto something else. Josiane, tell the kids to keep quiet. In the low-rent flats, a quick shot of red wine washed down the news, since the heart's mawkish pleasure goes sliding down better with something to chase it. It was washed down with scotch in the salon nooks of the patio suites, but ever so more subtly. That is, instead of a quick few gulps to help swill down the food for thought, the glass will be poised with a well-planned gesture, long enough to listen, holding back to let the taste buds build to exquisite heights of thirst, then letting go all at once in a crowning orgasmic burst between mind and event. 3,267 priests started frantically scribbling with an eye towards the following Sunday. Ready-made sermon, delivered to the door. Nothing to do with the gospel for the day, but who worries any more about such minor details? At the very same moment, 32,742 schoolteachers hit on the subject for the next day's theme. Describe the life of the poor, suffering souls on board the ships, and express your feelings towards their plight in detail, by imagining, for example, that one of the desperate families comes to your home and asks you to take them in. Irresistible, really, and the dear little angel, all simple childish soul and tender heart, will spread 4 pages worth of infantile pathos, enough to melt a concierge to tears, and his paper will be the best, the teacher will read it in class, and all his little friends will kick themselves for having been much too stingy with their whines and whimpers. That's how we mould our men nowadays. Because even the tough, hard-hearted little brat, the one with all he needs to succeed in this life, is forced to take part, since children abhor standing out from the crowd. So he'll have to play along too, and work himself into a hypocritical sweat over the same philanthropic rubbish. And he'll probably write just as brilliant a theme, clever child that he is, and he may even wind up believing what he writes, because youngsters like this are never really bad, just different, that's all, just untapped potential. Then he'll go home, like his classmate, both of them proud of their fine compositions. And father, who knows what life is all about, will read the A+ masterpiece, terrified, if he has the slightest imagination, at the notion of that foreign family of 8 coming to live in his 3 rooms and kitchen, but he'll sit back and keep his big mouth shut. Mustn't frustrate the little angels, mustn't shock them, mustn't sully their innocent thoughts and risk turning them later into hopeless prigs. No, he'll wallow, ensnared, in his gutless affection, and chuck his little angel on a cheek flushed with pleasure, telling himself that he's really a dear, and besides, out of the mouth of babes. Isn't that what they say? The mother will snivel in her handkerchief, eyes moist with maternal affection rewarded. But let the famished Ganges horde show up some morning at their door, assuming of course that such a thing could happen, and there's one damn family that's bloody well had it. Perhaps instead of an open-armed welcome, despite the prophetic prose of the little remote-controlled angel, they'll take to their heels. The Western heart, deep down, is all sham. In any event, they'll have lost the strength and will to say no. Now multiply that by 1 million mindless themes, applauded by 1 million milksop fathers, and you get some idea of the climate of total decay. Could that be one explanation? At the very same instant, some 7,212 lycée professors decided to begin their next day's classes with a discussion of racism. It didn't make the slightest difference what they taught. Math, English, chemistry, geography, even Latin. After all, whatever his field, isn't it the professor's role to develop his students' minds and force them to think? And so, they will have them speak their piece. The subject was there, ideal, made to order, too good to pass up. The fleet and its mission to cleanse and redeem the capitalist West. A fine topic, politically charged, with something for everyone. A limitless script in that ongoing cinema of the masses, spontaneous and unrehearsed, whose feeble and trite ideas, hashed over again and again, swallowed up any sense of reality, any notion of personal obligation. Here too we need to keep in mind only the negative side of these vapid and fuzzy debates. Let the Ganges invader finally set foot on the Côte d'Azur, and except for the warped, misguided few whom we'll see dashing south, like pyromaniacs to a fire, the brawling little robot brats will be more than content to pull down their pants, like Daddy, howling, according to their imbecilic logic, that they've needed a kick in the ass for a good long time, and they really deserve what they get. The beast's obedient servants were counting on such delightful results. Well, there's no need to go through and count up the millions and millions of Dufour's faithful listeners. The whole of France gulped down the narcotic. When the time would come to cut off her legs, she was sure to be ready for the operation.